Welcome to the Healing Her Story podcast, a podcast where we reclaim our stories, reconnect with our bodies, and remember the wisdom we were never taught and yet always carried. I'm your host, Riva Jean-Paul, a trauma-informed somatic practitioner, menstrual cycle coach, interdisciplinary artist, and guide for women walking the path of healing, awakening, and becoming. This show is for the woman who's tired of holding it all together, for the one who's done the talk therapy, read the books, and tried to meditate her way through the pain, and is now ready to go deeper. We live in a world that asks so much of women, a world that rewards our silence, praises our productivity, and shames our sensitivity. The systems we've been raised in were not built for our bodies, our rhythms, or our truth. But here, we do things differently. Together, we explore the cycles of the natural world and the menstrual cycle, the medicine of somatics, the power of creative expression, and the radical act of slowing down. Each episode is a journey through personal reflections, seasonal rhythms, expert conversations, and the deeper layers of what it means to heal from the inside out. Because healing isn't about fixing what's broken, because I do not believe you are broken. It's about remembering who you are and reconnecting with the wisdom and the healing intelligence that lives inside of you. I am so glad you are here. Let's begin. Fighting for the voice of the womb, diving to the depths of my womb, singing the truth of my womb, trusting the phases of the moon. Hello, dear listener. Welcome to today's episode of the Healing Her Story podcast. As always, so excited and delighted to be here with you today for another one of our Feminine Power and Moon Phases weekly cycle sync episodes. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you are returning, welcome back. It's an honor to have you returning to this show to tune in to the natural rhythms and cycles of our world. And I really believe when we do that, that it's about so much more. I always say this, I'll say it time and time again. It's about so much more than just working with the new moon and working with the full moon. It's really about attuning to a more rhythmic and sustainable way of being in the world. And that really starts with how we relate to ourselves at each of the different phases. Because whether you are paying attention or working with it or not, these cycles are happening. They are happening. And I believe there is so much growth and healing and remembering and transformation that can unfold when we really learn how to work with these natural rhythms and cycles. And that, I believe, creates a ripple effect out into our conscious collective field as we live in such a fast-paced, busy world. And right now, it's kind of a scary world to be in with everything that's happening. It's a wild time to be human, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And before we do, I want to begin with our minute of silence, as we always do in these episodes. And in this minute of silence, you are invited to come into a place of more presence with yourself, whatever that looks like, whether you're driving or doing some chores or maybe just working on something in the background, seeing what it would be like to slow down here, even if it's just a little bit. And in this place of more presence, beginning to tuning into where you might be in your own inner rhythm, tuning into how the body is feeling today, tuning into how your heart is feeling today, Also, maybe tuning into how your spirit is feeling, and also noticing the mind, how the mind is feeling today. So taking a minute to do that starting now. That concludes our minute of silence. I think it was a little longer than a minute. I kind of got lost in that space, and I often do in these check-ins, which is why I like to offer them, because there's so much power in just taking a moment to pause and notice. For me, I am cycle day 16, and I'm in my inner summer phase. I'm still feeling, and also feeling it will begin to change soon. Been really tracking how I've been feeling very closely this inner summer. And this inner summer has been much smoother than the last one. There's no eclipse happening this inner summer for me. So I think that definitely makes a difference. And for me, just being really intentional about the choices I'm making and the motivation behind those choices. I really enjoyed our conversation with Jamie a few weeks ago on beauty, and we had talked about tracking things that are working as opposed to tracking the things that aren't working. So I've been playing with that, and I've been noticing that my sleep's been better when I take the few extra minutes to make myself a magnesium mocktail, I call them. And I also put some some lavender in my diffuser right next to my bed. And I find that helps really well too. And just little things, like I really enjoy this lipstick color that I have on right now. I'm loving my hair right now. It's getting so long. And yeah, just tracking the things that are feeling good, that are working for me. And that's been really nice. I can definitely feel myself settling into this fall season as well here in the Northern Hemisphere, and been feeling moved to do a bit more reading and to start pulling back my energy from social media again, which I may do another episode about. So yeah, I'm in a great place. It's feeling like I've got a lot of projects, a few small projects at the schools that I work at starting, and a couple of bigger projects moving into their next stages. And yeah, just kind of enjoying things, getting ready for my birthday here in a few weeks. So again, as I shared in last week's cycle check-in, sometimes there's less things to complain about or less things that stick out during these times. So that's nice, especially since I've had trouble around these early stages of the cycle, this inner spring and inner summer. I'm feeling like a lot of the challenges I was having in the last few months, or like in the first half of the year, have begun to settle, and I'm in a good season. So that's a little bit about me today. I hope that's helpful for you. I always like to share just so you can have a little bit of insight into my own
personal experience with menstrual cycle awareness, as it's always ebbing and flowing and changing and evolving. And I'm sure I'll have more things to share about my cyclical experience next week when we meet again. As far as today, this week we are tuning to the energy of the full moon, and it is the week of October 6th. Wow. We are in the home stretch of the Gregorian calendar year. And today, it's interesting, this episode aligned perfectly with the full moon. The full moon is actually today on October 6th. It depends on where you are in the world as far as what time the full moon is peaking, but it is happening right now. And I am recording about 4 days ahead. And honestly, I can already start to feel the intensity building a bit. The full moon can feel like a lot. And especially with this full moon happening at the time that you are listening to this, or around the time you are listening to this, the full moon is in Aries, and Aries is a fiery sign. And it's not just any full moon, it's also a super full moon. So everything is amplified. And with this more fiery energy, there can be a lot more emotions and a lot more frustration and tension that can sometimes build up in our systems. You might notice the big shifts happening in the lives of people around you. You also might notice things happening in the world. Maybe the world feels especially charged right now, which I would say that it does, at least here in the United States. Or perhaps maybe your own inner landscape is full of emotion. And today I want to talk about why that happens and why you might feel a little crazy, air quotes, around this time. First off, chances are, if you're here listening, you believe in some kind of higher power, greater intelligence, or divine order. Whatever name you want to call it, God, source, divine, spirit, I believe it's all the same intelligence. And this is the same intelligence that makes the grass grow, that makes the season change, that allows the moon to move through her phases. And I also believe this is the same energy that allows your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe without you even trying. How magical and amazing is that? At the root of it all, I think maybe we can all agree that everything is energy. And during the full moon, energy is heightened, or you could say it's more active. And we can see this reflected in nature. For example, studies show that tides are stronger during the full and new moons. Higher tides, lower lows, and more powerful currents. Wow. Now, if the moon can literally move entire oceans, it makes sense that it might move something in us too. Especially since we humans are mostly water. And just like the tides swell and intensify, so can our emotional waves. Maybe you feel a bit more sensitive, more reactive, or more alive in your body. There's also been studies that have shown that during the full moon, we get about 30% less deep sleep. So if you've been feeling restless, anxious, or maybe you're having trouble sleeping, it's not in your head. The full moon really does affect our nervous system. Now, I want to pause on this word crazy, again in air quotes. I use it lightly because what does that even mean? Well, historically, women have been labeled, quote unquote, hysterical when they didn't fit the mold society wanted for them. Whether they chose not to be wives or mothers, or experienced PMS, or maybe depression or anxiety. Instead of researching and listening, male doctors of the 19th century slapped the label hysteria onto women whose experiences were actually valid nervous system responses to the oppression and marginalization they were facing. Just let that sit for a moment. And while the world has changed, it's still far from settled, with oppression, violence, and devastation happening globally, and fascism. Maybe, just maybe, your heightened emotions are not a sign of something being wrong with you, but actually a completely valid response to the world you're living in. So no, you're not crazy. You're human. And the full moon doesn't just amplify your energy, it amplifies everyone's energy. And that collective swell can feel overwhelming. And when we allow ourselves to simply notice what we're feeling without making it wrong, something softens. And that's often where relief begins. And of course, I know that it's easier said than done. This is a lot of the work I support my clients with, and it's also the work I've had to grow through myself. So if you need extra support this week, I've included some somatic meditations in the show notes to help you ground, soften, and ride the waves of this full moon with more ease.
Thanks so much for making it till the end of today's episode. Before you go, if this episode spoke to your heart, moved something in you, or offered a moment of clarity, or perhaps helped you to feel even just a little bit more seen or heard or understood, I invite you to please share this episode with a friend. Together, we create space for the feminine frequency to rise, not just in us as individuals, but in our families, in our communities, and ultimately in our collective. And this is how we do it, by sharing one story at a time, by having one conversation at a time, by taking one small step at a time. And if you're wanting to support the podcast even more, it truly helps to leave a 5-star rating and review. Your words help other women find this space, feel seen, and know that they're not alone on their healing journeys. As a thank you, when you leave a review, take a screenshot and email it to me at riva@windsofchangesac.com. I'll give you a free registration to our online trauma-informed breathwork circle for women held on Zoom every third Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's a powerful space for release, restoration, and real connection. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for helping this work ripple outward. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Fighting for the voice of the womb, clearing the pain from your womb, creating new life from your womb, rebuilding with the phases of the moon.